A 3631 Tactical here today. We want to talk about weapon manipulation drills. A lot of people call this dry firing, but it's more than dry firing. I like to call it weapon manipulation drills because there's a lot of weapon manipulation. It's not just pulling the trigger on an empty chamber. Things like getting the right grip, drawing the gun from the holster, dry firing, presenting the gun to the target, emergency reloads, tack reloads, reloads with one hand. There's a lot of skills you can practice without ever firing a shot. This is probably the best way to practice because when you go to the range, what are you distracted by? You're distracted by the sound of the gun. Even though you got your hearing protection on, you're still distracted. Sound of the gun, the felt recoil of the gun recoiling, and a lot of people shoot 1-2 shots, and what do? They take their eyes off the sights, they look over, and they're looking down range at the target. They want to know, did I hit the target? So the felt recoil, the sound, and the focus on whether or not I hit the target takes away from the actual technique. When you practice dry drills, you're focusing 100% on technique and nothing else. So you really get to refine and perfect your skills. And then you go out to the range, you fire live rounds, and those are kind of like the proving grounds to see if what you're practicing is making you better. My last video was about gross motor skills and fine motor skills with a emergency or a combat reload. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about weapon manipulation drills, and I'm going to specifically cover that one skill. Doing an emergency reload and how to practice that with weapon manipulation drills. What I'm going to use is a Glock 17, but I have a Blade Tech training barrel installed in the gun. So this is just a plastic barrel. If anybody's worried about any kind of safety issue, these barrels cost about 13 bucks. What you do is you disassemble the weapon, take your live barrel, put it somewhere, put the plastic barrel in place of your live barrel, and then reassemble the gun the same way you would with the recoil spring and everything else in the same exact way. And then you have a training barrel that allows the gun to function just the way it would normally function. Just there's no way to load a live round in here with this barrel. So this is what we're going to use for safety reasons, and we'll get started. So if anybody's watching this video and doesn't know, a emergency reload or a combat reload is when your gun is in this condition. The gun was loaded, fully loaded, and I got into this gunfight and I emptied the gun entirely. Usually, when you empty a gun, a semi-automatic pistol, most of them lock to the rear. So this is what the gun would look like. The magazine would be completely empty, slide lock to the rear. I got no more bullets. I got to get this thing back up and running. And this is how we practice this. We have our training barrel in. The first thing I do is insert a magazine, lock the slide to the rear. This would be my starting position for this particular drill. I have two hands aimed in, and the gun set up just like this. Now this is what the reload should look like. Let's break that down. So we're going to break this down into 5 main teaching points. And the first one is, if you're trying to do this fast, it's easier to do, I guess, more than one thing at a time. So when my gun runs dry, I want to hit my magazine release, and at the same time as I'm doing that, I want to be going for my new mag. So if I get a good run on this, usually I can get my mag out, and my mag is coming towards the gun before this mag even hits the ground. So we want to try to do that at the same time. Some people teach to grab that magazine and rip it out of there. And one of the issues with that, I think, is, and I'm pretty sure it's the Gen 1s, the old Gen 1 Glocks, and some other guns, have a feature where if you hit the magazine release, the magazine won't come out unless you rip it out of there, right? To prevent the magazine button from being pushed and the magazine just falling out. If you have a gun that is set up like that, then that's the way you're going to have to do it. You're going to have to push the magazine release button and rip that magazine out of there. But if you don't, most modern semi-automatic pistols are pretty good about that mag just falling out. They just fall out. The only time people have an issue is when they turn the gun sideways and then they hit the mag release. Then it's not going anywhere, or it comes out partially and they're shaking the gun and doing this and all kind of other stuff trying to get that mag to come out. If you keep the gun in a relatively up and down position and you hit that mag release, gravity will do its thing and the mag will come out. But if you have a weapon that has that feature, then you're going to have to pull that mag out. So when I say do 2 things at once, this is generally what I mean. Hit the mag release and go for my new mag at the same time. Something like this. So my mag is inserted in the well, and I'm right there doing my reload about the same time that you heard that other magazine hit the ground. One thing to help you with that, one thing you have to realize, is that when you hit that magazine release button, you got to cant the weapon slightly in your hand to get a good press on that magazine release button. Because that's just the way the gun is designed. If it wasn't designed that way, just by getting your grip, you would end up hitting the magazine release button, and your gun or your magazine would constantly be falling out. It's designed in such a way that you got to really put some decent pressure on it to get it to come out. So to get that decent pressure on the magazine release button, you just want to cant the gun just a little bit, and then your thumb can really put the pressure that you need to put to get that mag to fall right out. All right, so we talked about hitting the magazine release, going for your new mag at the same time. We talked about canting your pistol as you're hitting that magazine release. That's teaching point number 2. Number 3 is the grip on the mag. It's so important, the grip that you get on your magazine. This is the grip that we teach, is to have the magazine floor plate in the palm of your hand, and your finger should be resting where the bullet would be. If there's, obviously this is an empty magazine, but if there was a bullet in there, my finger should be resting right there. This is the grip. I see so many people that come to classes and they try to do these reloads and they grab their mags and they got their mag in some configuration like this, you know, they're barely holding on to the end of it, and then they're trying to cram this thing into the gun. They're fighting with it doing this because they don't really have any good positive control over the mag. Base plate in the palm of your hand and your finger right here is exactly how you want it. I got really good control over this mag. I'm not going to bobble this thing. It's not going to fall out of my hand. And the other benefit is my finger. Wherever my finger points, that's where this thing is going to go. It's just the way your brain and body works. It's kind of like how police officers test drunk drivers that make them touch their finger to their nose. You can't do that when you're drunk, right? It's just the way your brain and body works. If I say point at something in the room, you point at it, and you don't think twice about it because you've been pointing at things since you were a kid. Wherever you point that finger is where it's going to go. So if my grip is correct on my magazine, and I bring the gun in and I look at the magazine well, if I'm just pointing my finger there, it's going to go there, and it's going to be very smooth. If I have some funky grip like this on my mag, it's not going to work. So remember, teaching point number 3 on this is have the right grip on your magazine. Point number 4 we want to talk about is where you position the gun. I see a lot of people doing this stuff where their gun is extended like this, and they're trying to stick the magazine in here like this. I don't know how you can do this with any kind of speed or efficiency. You can't. I've heard people say, well, they want people keeping the gun down range. This is a safety issue. What we teach is to bring the gun in and turn it so you can see the magazine well. Right? Where's my gun pointed? It's still pointed down range. If I had a mistake and I let a round go, it's still going to go down range and hit the berm, right? It's not going to go anywhere else. The issue, I think, is when people do reloads like this, where they're pointing the gun up. We don't teach that. We teach to bring the gun back, turn it, still pointed down range, and I can see that magazine well. That's what I want to do. I'm going to see the magazine well. This Frankenstein kind of reload thing here, that's not going to work. That's not going to be efficient. It's not going to be have any kind of speed to it whatsoever. So we're going to bring the gun in, turn it so I can see the magazine well. I actually look at the magazine well just for that split second, just enough for the magazine to start to enter the magazine well. Once it does, then I'm focused back downrange on my target and I seat the mag. So once I get to this point, my next thing is as I'm orientating the gun back to my target, I'm going to hit that slide stop. Slide's going to go forward, the gun's going to be loaded. Thing to pay attention here is that you got to reestablish that grip, meaning after I do that, my slide goes forward, I got to make sure I kind of grind my grip back to where I want it, so that every round I send downrange afterward can be fast and can be accurate. Sometimes people try to go fast, and even myself, if I'm really pushing myself going fast, sometimes I got to slow down and work on the technique. But if you go too fast, send the slide forward, and you don't have quite as good of a grip, when you start shooting, your rounds aren't going to be where you want them to be. So really make sure you grind that grip back into the gun, reestablish a good solid grip, and then you can start sending accurate, fast rounds back downrange. So how much did this cost me right now? How much did it cost me to do what I just did, to practice that emergency reload? It cost me nothing, right? I didn't buy any bullets, didn't buy any ammunition. I didn't spend any money at a gun range on time at the range, which most indoor gun ranges, you can't do these type of techniques anyway. You can't draw from a holster, you can't do reloads, you're limited, you can't do those kind of things. And even if you go to a range where you can do those kind of things, again, it costs money for ammunition. It costs money to get on that range, and some of these ranges are quite expensive. How much did it cost me right now? It costed me nothing, nothing. Just a small investment in time. The other thing, like I said earlier, if I'm at the range and I'm doing these techniques, what am I focused on? And everybody gets focused on this. The recoil, the felt recoil of the gun, maybe the sound of the gun, the flash, and the where did I hit? People shoot a target and they always want to look, where's my bullet? And they're not paying attention to the techniques. Those 5 things that we just talked about, you know, hitting your mag release, getting your magazine at the same time, canting your gun a little bit so you can get a good press on that magazine button, the grip that you get on your magazine, right? Turning the gun so that you can see the mag well, and reestablishing your grip after you hit that slide. Those are all things that I focused on, right? I can focus on those things and do this for 10, 15 minutes a day. And in no time at all, you'll be ridiculously fast with these reloads. You'll be able to do this in your sleep, in the darkness, in the night, with one hand, or whatever. You'll be able to do these very, very proficiently if you practice dry. and it doesn't cost you anything. Small investment, very small investment in time. These techniques too, like the hitting the slide stop. I have people that will come to classes. We teach a lot of law enforcement officers here, and they'll come to, and we'll show them this, and they'll say, yeah, well, I can't do that. Something's wrong with my gun. My gun doesn't do that. And I say, well, let me see your gun. And I get their gun and I set it up just like this, and I go like that every time, and I can do this all day. And I'm not some kind of special, talented, gifted person. It's just that I invested the time in practicing. Like I said earlier, you can do an assortment of different skills with weapon manipulations. It's not just reloads. It's reloads, mercy reloads, tack reloads, one-handed reloads. You can work on drawing the gun out of your holster and how fast can I get the gun on target. You can work on drawing from concealment, drawing with one hand. There's so many different things you can do. Drawing while you're moving. There's so many different things you can do. With these weapon manipulation drills, you're really only limited by your own imagination. If you'd like to see more videos like this, as well as some gun reviews and equipment reviews, check us out at 3631 Tactical on YouTube. And if you're interested in a quality Michigan-based CPL class, check us out at 3631tactical.com. Thanks for watching.